Ross. It's great to have you on InvestorStream for the first time to discuss KALiNA's recent developments. Now, before we delve into some of the facts and figures you've referenced in your most recent update, can you give us a broad overview of the work currently underway with respect to your proposed 64 megawatt primary site?
Yeah, the key word there, Alex, is it's our primary site. And we really want to make sure that the folks can understand that this is really our central focus. And this is where most of our money is going into right now, is for this first primary site. This primary site, 64 megawatts. When we started about 2.5 years ago, we were looking at building 21 megawatt combined cycle plants using the KALiNA cycle technology. With our partners, with our great team, we've been able to find ways of scaling this up effectively for the Alberta market, such that we can provide 32 megawatt trains of the KALiNA combined cycle, each consisting of a gas turbine and a KALiNA cycle zero emissions module. And we've been able to now find specific sites that can handle 2 of these trains at each location for a total of 64 megawatts. So what you've seen in the recent announcements is an increased focus on identifying 64 megawatt projects, locations that can handle these double trains. And we now have several of these in development. But our primary site is this great location that can handle the initial plans for a KALiNA combined cycle project.
Now, Ross, something else that we're pretty keen to touch on, if we may, is how the business is scaling up, given your reference in this week's announcement to the potential for projects in development or under consideration to generate up to 320 megawatts if they were brought online. That's quite a big number you've referenced there, and it's a big jump on what you've reported previously. In a nutshell, can you just talk us through what is driving this major scale up?
Well, frankly, it's the team. When we started this exercise, we did it with a team of professionals that we've all been working with for well over the last 10, 15 years. Folks that are probably represent one of the best project development teams in North America, who live in Alberta and are well known to ourselves. And we decided to work on the specific project with them. And frankly, what we're seeing as a result of all that hard effort is not just to go out and find ourselves our first site, but rather in the process of finding one site, we've been able to develop multiple projects. But the reality is, as big as number that sounds like a huge number, and it is a big number. But frankly, some of those projects may not get to the finish line. But as much as some of those projects won't get to the finish line, you'll also find others will come in to take their place. So we're not just developing a handful of projects that represent 320 megawatts. We're going after 10 different locations where we can see the deployment of this technology in the province of Alberta. That's what we're focused on, is a much larger scale to all these projects.
Okay, so potentially $900 million of capital investment if all projects currently under consideration are developed. How do you plan on financing that?
I think when I mention how many of these projects we're going after, Alex, it's important to understand that if we get any kind of traction initially with these, we will be well on our way to go after these 10 locations that we identified in our original business plan. And it won't be $900 million. It'll be much more than $900 million. The plan has always considered how to go after that in the most accretive way for shareholders in our company. And the way to do that is to find debt funders willing to provide debt for the projects, find equity investors who are willing to participate with us and get significant stake in the equity in these projects. I'll remind your listeners that we have Akira partners out of Calgary who are there with us for $70 million, their money coming into the first 2 projects as project equity. We're now in conversations with a number of different debt providers for these projects. So while it's a big number for a company like ourselves, I would even argue that even $100 million is a big number for a company our size. But we're actually going after a much bigger prize. We've identified an opportunity to deploy our technology in the province of Alberta on these distributed power generation opportunities. These represent a tremendous opportunity for our company to go after a really large market, from our perspective, a large market. And I think that number should be much higher than $900 million. So right now, our focus is to get the debt funding in place, the equity all lined up. But basically, to do that, we need to basically hit all of the milestones that we identified in our latest update, which are well underway.
So Ross, before we let you go, what are some of the near-term milestones that we should be keeping an eye out for here?
We alluded to that a little bit in our most recent announcement, where we outlined the various milestones which remain. Enerflex is in the process of completing a fixed price turnkey contract which will be solidified and well documented with all the firm price bids that we've been receiving as part of that competitive process that we've undergone to get the best prices for all the major equipment for our plants. That's well advanced right now, and we're in the process of selecting the major vendors right now. I think in the process of selecting those major vendors, some of them will be announced as to who they are, in particular those that we think we can have strategic relationships with, not just in our projects in Alberta, but elsewhere in North America and around the world.
Fantastic. Look, Ross, really appreciate you joining me today, and thank you for the update, and we'll be in touch soon. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Al.